Welcome to Your Personal Power Pod, a podcast about aligning yourself with the life you want. And here are your hosts, Sandy Abel and Shannon Young. Shannon, today is such an exciting day.
It is an exciting day. Today, we are welcoming a third person into the quote-unquote radio booth. We have a guest.
And a wonderful, amazing, fabulous guest. I'm really excited to introduce all of you to PK Hallinan. PK is a world-renowned children's book author. For over 45 years, he's been writing and illustrating wonderful children's books focused on supporting and empowering young people in many ways. And over the years, he's sold almost 12 million books, and his driving force has always been to help all people be the best they can be, and then use that to serve others. His goal is to inspire everyone to leave heartprints, which I just love, which are formed when you do something kind and your love touches others. He's also been a pastor for 25 years, married to his wife for 40 years, has 2 sons, and in addition to all of this, PK is a musician who enjoys singing and playing his guitar for residents of memory care facilities. He says his life goal is to help as many people as he can without expecting anything in return. And today, PK will share with us how he accomplished all these things and the role self-esteem and personal power played in his success.
PK Hallinan, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Oh, my pleasure.
Can you just tell us a little bit about your early life and your formative years, and then how it is that you came to find music and your abilities to draw and write?
It's interesting. About 50 years ago now, I had a job and it was doing okay, but I didn't really know what to do with myself. And then Christmas came around and my wife asked me if I would write a little children's book for the kids as a Christmas present. And I said, sure, and didn't know what I was doing. So I put together this absolutely terrible little book, but it was kind of fun. And it was called Kenny and Mikey Meet the Jungle People. And it was illustrated by me. And I mean, it was crazy. On Christmas Day, the people came over and they looked at it. And they loved it. And I was shocked because I had no idea that they would. I immediately started thinking, well, maybe I could do more of these. I started another book. Gosh, I think it was a looking book. I learned how to illustrate and things just started happening. But I never left my full-time job. I was working for a little computer company called Topaz. I kept on working, but started turning out more books. The interesting thing is the first book I ever sent to a publisher was purchased. I was almost shocked by it because you can go your whole life and never get a book published. They liked it, but the thing they did that was too bad was they didn't use my illustrations, which weren't very good, but the ones they did use were very, very mediocre and had no feeling to them. And I made a decision when I saw it that I would never let that happen again. So when I wrote my next book, the Looking Book, I did the illustrations as hard as I could do them to make them good. And it turned out that I improved so much in the second half of the book that I had to go back and redraw the whole first half. When I go to schools, I tell kids, if you want to be an illustrator, just keep drawing and don't stop. Because if you just keep drawing and erasing, drawing and erasing, drawing and erasing, sooner or later, something is going to lift up. Don't ever stop trying. Make a long story short, they did buy my book and they bought my illustrations, and that really kicked me off on a career. Even so, it took me 25 years, I think, more of being in corporate America before I could afford to do it full time. I realized that I had a certain calling. And I remember this gravel truck was out in front of my house going down the street. And on the side, they had this sign that said, find a hole and fill it. And I thought, gosh, that's what I'd like to do with my children's books. I'd like to find the holes that nobody's written about and do them. Fill this one, fill that one. Where's the need? How do you pour into this thing? That became what I did with my books. They've always been very nice, family-oriented books, and always encouraging. Almost always in verse. It turns out I'm not a bad rhymer either. I understand rhyming in a way that a lot of people don't. I just started pouring it out. Some of them have been in print for 25 years now, and some of them have been printed in Japan, and some have been printed in Greece, and they're all over the world now. I stopped writing books about 10 years ago because I figured that I'd done, at that point, at least 85 of them. Could be more like 100. I have lost track. After moving away from them for 10 years, I have never been more famous.
Caught up with you, PK.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I haven't done anything, and yet everywhere I go now, people know who I am. It just shocked me because that's all I really ever wanted for years and years and years. Didn't get there. I just let go of it, and suddenly my books are everywhere. People know who I am. I've had a very rewarding life. The great part of my story really comes down to when I wrote Heartprints. It's called The Impression Left Behind by a Deliberate Act of Kindness. That book has ended up being kind of what guides my life. What are you leaving behind? As you march through this life, what's behind you? I just really like to help people.
You say that your life changed completely when you realized that it was more important for you to serve others than it was for you to be served. Can you tell us about that realization and how that came to you?
It took me a very, very, very long time to get there. I like to say when I first moved from Southern California up to Oregon, I got into my little office, counted up my book sales, and I found out I had sold 1 million books. And I was just so thrilled for about 2.5 minutes. And then suddenly I thought, gosh, 5 million would be better. There's a great saying by comedian Gertrude Stein back in about 1934. She was taking a trip to Oakland and she said, when you finally get there, you find there's no there there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that's absolutely true. When I realized I wasn't going to be happy with just selling 1 million books, I realized I'm not going to be happy with selling 10 million books. What you create, what you do, don't necessarily make you happy. What makes you happy is the sustaining things that you can do for others, help other people feel better. To tell you the truth, I think one of the things was in the Bible. In Mark 10:45, Jesus says, the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. And I thought that's all of us, not wanting to be served, but wanting to serve. Because if you're really focused on nothing but yourself, you're going to get there and find there's no there there. In fact, in the book Heartprints, my favorite line in the whole book is, yes, each little kindness leaves heartprints that say a very nice person has been here today. I love that because that's the feeling that you want. You'd love to know that after you've left the room, people are still smiling because they really enjoyed you being there so much. If you start wanting to help people and helping people, you'll find a form of happiness that you've never really experienced before. The thing is, the more you can do for other people, the more you are going to be healed and hearty and feeling better about things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Your story is kind of a dream come true. There are plenty of authors out there who have set out purposely to become a world-renowned author, and it has not gone anywhere near as smoothly as your situation seemed to play out. Were there times when you were facing challenges, though? Tell us a little bit about the hiccups in that process.
The funny thing about it is that I never had any problems, basically, with publishers, which is very, very strange because everybody does. First books were bought. Part of that was at that time, they used to buy books and not give royalties on them. And they bought up a lot of mine and were making a lot of money off my books. One of the things that's tough about children's books is that it's very hard to make any money. If a book sells for $10, let's just say that, normally the store pays $5 for it, and they pick up the other $5 when they sell it. PK Hallinan gets 10% of the $5, a $10 book, and you're getting 50 cents. So it can take so many years to make any bunches of money. I never really considered myself very much about that because I just thought, I'm just going to keep doing what I do the best I can. I'm glad actually that I stopped when I did because what it did, it introduced me to a whole lot of other things that are just really of the same fiber. There are ways to help people that are important to me. Dr. Albert Schweitzer, a medical missionary to Africa and also a Nobel Peace Prize winner in 1952, he said this, "The only ones among you who will be happy are those who will have sought and found how to serve." Back in 1952. I agree with that.
He's a wise man.
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to share, I had the good fortune of being able to write a book called A Life That Matters. It's the only book I've written for adults. In fact, Sandy, I think you said you'd read a copy of this.
Yes, I had. Long time ago. It was great.
It's The Life That Matters, and it's 5 steps to making a difference. I just would like to go quickly over those 5 steps because they're based on what I had observed traveling around the country of why people weren't successful. First one is Work hard. Now that sounds like an absolute no-brainer, but people don't. They don't unless they have to. They don't realize that hard work is one of the greatest assurances of doing well of almost anything you can choose. Jerry Rice was a wide receiver for the 49ers. He was generally considered to be the hardest working football player back in those days because he'd come to work out earlier than everybody else. He'd stay later than everybody else, and he would put everything he had into being better and better and better. I like to tell people, don't be afraid to work hard. There's no exceptions to why that's important. Number 2 is go in the strength you have, meaning what have you already got that's strong for you? What do you like to do? Do that. Somewhere, if there's something that you really, really enjoy doing, I think you're supposed to work on it. Don't ignore that. We all get little callings for things that people need and that we're really very happy to do. You already know somewhere what your strength is. Do you speak well? Do you think well? Are you good at math? Where's your strength? Take that strength and do what's set before you. Number 3. This is the most important. Finish what you start. It has been my observation all over America. Nobody finishes what they start.
Good point.
It's almost unbelievable. I used to go up to the Rogue Valley Mall here during Christmas and do these enormous lines of people wanting books signed. And I'd sit there writing and signing, and I'd look down and see who's coming my way. And invariably, there was somebody who was looking at my books, waiting in line, but he wasn't really interested in my books. And I could tell he's just killing time looking at the books. When he finally got to me, I knew what he was going to say. PK, how do you get a book published?
Yeah.
Given maybe a full day, I could tell him some of the ways you can get a book published, but not in a second. I tried my best because this kept going on over and over. Then one day I was doing the signings like that, and a guy said, how do you get a book published? I said, let me ask you a question. Have you finished a book? Have you finished a manuscript? Guess what the answer always was? No.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet's even better because it's got false hope in it. Well, I said, I'll tell you what. I'm in the phone book. That's when we had phone books. I don't think we have it anymore. When you get your manuscript written, you give me a call and I'll help you. How many people do you suppose responded?
None.
None.
Right.
I told all these different people, just finish what you start, get your manuscript together, because you never get a book published if you don't have a manuscript. But almost nobody finishes their manuscript. And if they do, a lot of people don't sense that it should be hard. And so sometimes what they'll do is they'll want you to represent their manuscript that's written, but half the words are misspelled. And because they haven't taken the time to look at it and fix them all. Basically, what I found out is if you don't finish what you start, you will never be successful.
Excellent advice.
No two ways about it. The 4th rule was be patient. Everything takes time. Don't let things discourage you. Don't quit. Just keep trying to do the best you can. You got to have time to sort of sit back a little so you can get a better feeling and a better judgment about things. There are all kinds of reasons why being patient is very, very helpful. I would just advise people, don't get ready to give up because nothing's happened in the last 2 hours. Wait and see what you're going through because something will emerge that is there to help you. Don't become impatient. And the 5th is help other people along the way. Whatever you are doing, make time for other people. One of the reasons I know that my books have been so successful is even in the beginning, before I had a faith or a belief of any kind, I strongly believed that you had to write things that were important to people, that made them feel better. Why not? The book, How Do I Love You, is my best-selling book. All it's about is a book I wrote for my 2 sons, Ken and Mike. It was my way of telling them how much I loved them. That book has probably sold 2 to 3 million copies, at least that. I always felt it would because I put everything into it. My greatest page in that is the next to last page, and it says this, How do I love you? It's impossible to say, for if I had 1,000,000 days and time enough for all the praise, I couldn't tell you all the ways I love you. End of book.
That is beautiful.
Isn't that nice? This is something I really like. This is what the Wizard of Oz said to the Tin Man. He said, remember, my sentimental friend, a heart is not judged by how much you love, but by how much you are loved by others. For years, I disagreed with it, but I know what it means now. You can do all you want, loving people to death, but never leaving your room. That in and of itself is not what you're made of. If you never help other people, you're not using your love for anything. You don't really have love. And I thought the Wizard of Oz was brilliant with that.
Very good point. Since our podcast is all about self-esteem and personal power, like it says in your adult book, you did not give up. You must have had some kind of strong sense of self in order to do that. Did you have a strong sense of who you were and knew you could do it?
I guess I did, to be honest with you. I never felt like I wasn't gifted. Basically, I'm gifted in almost every art form there is except dancing.
Well, that's pretty nice.
No, I mean, really, I love to sing. I've got a very nice singing voice. I was blessed with that. I love to play my guitar. It took me a little while to learn how, but I did learn. It fascinated me how much I really loved playing the guitar and singing. Of all my talents, the ones I kind of enjoy the most, because they're very firsthand, they're very people-oriented. It's not much fun if you're just playing for yourself, but if you can help people using the gifts that God's given you, I think you should.
Absolutely.
Because it's just amazing what you can do. It all comes back to the same thing, where are your gifts? I've enjoyed what I've done very much. I do not feel apologetic actually about anything. As far as becoming a Christian, that was just something that happened. I had almost nothing to do with that. It was several years ago. My wife and I, when we first moved up to Oregon, we knew nothing about religion, but for some reason, living in Ashland, we ran into all kinds of people that were going to Bible studies and this and that and the other, and I thought nothing of it. In fact, I remember going out to this one church one morning, and I was astonished to find out that Christians could play guitars. I had no idea. I had no idea that they could, and they were really very good at it. John Corson, who ran the church, he lost his daughter in a car accident.
I remember that.
And I remember going to the funeral, and I was still really rough on whether I believe, but I went to the memorial service, and I was astonished that he came out and soothed every one of us through his speaking, through talking to us. It was almost impossible. He was the one who lost the daughter, and here he's treating us as well as he can to make sure we're not unhappy. When that happened, I really had to change my idea about what this was really all about, because I was sitting there like waiting for all the things to fall apart. God, Christianity is easy when you sing and dance and drive around the room and do all kinds of weird things. But what about when something's really terrible is happening? How do you handle it then? I don't know. I just feel kind of lucky. It took me about 15 years before I really had a personal revival. It made me the person that I wanted to be, because that's what it's about.
That's great, PK. That is awesome.
What I'm getting from all of the stories that you're telling, whether it's about your music or your faith or your ability to write and draw, is just that you have this incredible willingness to stay open, to try new things, and to just follow the love, basically. And it sounds like that philosophy has kind of kept you from falling into some of the pitfalls that people fall into when it comes to making progress in their life, which is, self-doubt and questioning and being afraid.
Thank you. That's an interesting thing. What I have noticed most is a lot of people in the entertainment industry, for example, never get used to the fact there's no there there. It never hold still to where, okay, I'm ready to die, I guess, or, there's nothing there. So what you have to be doing is filling up your life with things that you make, not that you rely on hoping they're going to come your way. And you can keep your life in very good shape as long as you're doing good works for people, if you're helping people, helping others. So many people in the entertainment industry, they kill themselves, they get miserable, they got all the money in the world, and they're miserably unhappy. In fact, I remember this one very wealthy guy, I can't remember his name, but he was saying, the unhappiest people you'll ever know they're going and looking at their yachts and how scraped up they are.
They're focusing on their possessions.
They have these yachts, but they don't get any enjoyment out of them whatsoever.
Right.
So many of them don't ever reach what they started out for. What they start out for is fame. But how many people have fame for beyond maybe 5 or 6 years? Probably not many. Even football players are only professional football players, most of them for 4 years. After all that time, after all the high school games, the college games, and all this, and this, once they've been in the pros for 4 years, they're done. They're beat up. They're gone. What do they do after that? Open a car, restore, go do something else. You've got to be working on what can you do for others, because what you can do for others is endless. You never run out. You know what? You never run out of nice people thanking you either. Something happened in my church the other day. I gave a sermon. I don't remember what it was, but I was shocked when this gal came up to me crying, and she said, I have to tell you, I needed to hear what you said today. It made me feel wonderful that she could get what she wanted to the point of feeling relieved in tears. And I don't know, how can you go wrong when that's your goal?
Well, that's what you're all about, PK, is touching people on that level. You just are all about being there for them and giving. And as a result, you gain.
I believe Love God, love people, and that's all you need to worry about.
And love yourself. You have to love yourself.
Yes, and you do have to love yourself. I don't think you can love yourself only.
Right.
Yes, exactly. No,
If you don't love other people, I don't know if your love's real.
absolutely.
I know people want to love themselves, but if that's their goal, they're going to have a hard time filling it.
I think it's a start. I think once you're good with who you are and love who you are, then you'll be able to share that with everybody.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great what you guys are up to. I think it's very important. And I was hoping not to mess any of that up. I think you're doing something wonderful. But I do believe that a significant part of becoming happy with yourself is how much you help others. I don't know how I feel about me. I don't know if I love myself or not, but I do know that I feel very well taken care of. I'm very happy in my life.
You've created that, and you need to take credit for that.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Well, I sure appreciate you sharing.
We just really appreciate that you're taking the time to do this. It's always interesting to bring new people into our conversation. It's usually just the two of us talking about a particular topic. What I think I've learned is that there isn't just one way to get good with yourself and enjoy your life. And I think that's the most valuable lesson that we've gotten from all of our interviews, is that there are a variety of roads to the same place. And it's really cool that people like you are willing to share the road they took.
Yes, and we really, really appreciate it.
Really my pleasure. I'm actually very flattered that you would think of me.
Well, and I want to thank you for all you're doing. I mean, the millions of children who have had their lives changed by your books. They are stronger, happier human beings because of what you put out there. So thank you very much for that.
So thank you so much for having me on your show here. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
It has been our pleasure. We've been talking with children's book author P.K. Hallinan. You can find his books anywhere that children's books are sold. He is quite prolific. And if you would like to get in touch with him, you can email him at pkhallinan@msn.com. Thank you, PK.
Thank you. God bless you.
And please reach out to us. We love it when you tell us your stories about self-esteem and personal power and how they affect your life. If you have any topics you'd like us to address in future episodes, please reach out to us. And if you are in the mood, we would love it if you wanted to review our podcast. And you can do that wherever you stream. Or if you would rather just talk to us directly, you can do that too by visiting yourpersonalpowerpod.com, clicking contact, and dropping us an email. Also, please visit and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and be sure to share our podcast with your friends and family so they can join in on all the fun. And if you want to learn about coaching and how it can change your life, contact Sandy at insidejobscoach.com. We look forward to hearing from you, and until next time, find your power and change your life.